Hi there, I'm Mike. What up for you today is Star Wars The Black Series number 86, Ezra Bridger. Go ahead and take a look at a picture of Ezra while I read the bio on the back of the box. Growing up, Ezra learned to trust no one and to rely on his street smarts and subconscious force abilities to survive. This all changes with his introduction to the crew of the Ghost, a small band of rebels fighting back against the Empire. Ezra comes to believe in their cause and sees that he can help change the galaxy for the better. Here we have Ezra out of the box. Now Ezra, as kind of stated in that bio, is from the show Rebels. In the show, he starts off as just sort of a street urchin, stealing fruit and, things from Imperials. In fact, he has a penchant for stealing helmets, which I actually kind of liked. It sort of weirdly endeared me to the character. Although, that was about it. I wasn't a huge fan of his character when the series started. In fact, I wasn't really a huge fan of the series when it started. I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't like the best, and I was a little salty from losing Clone Wars to Rebels. Now, I got over that at the end of the first season when I decided that I absolutely loved Rebels because it got really good. And then the next 3 seasons were also really good. So, if you never gave Rebels a chance past the first couple episodes or at all, I highly recommend watching it. Enough about Rebels. You guys can watch it if you want, but this is about Ezra. Again, he's one of the main characters and one of the core members of the group. He is a fledgling Jedi being taught by Kanan Jarrus. Now, in terms of likeness, does what I have in my hand look like what we see on screen? It's kind of weird because he doesn't and he does. Since the very first Rebels character, they don't really look like they do on the screen, because on the screen they have a weird stylized kind of, it was the same kind of style almost that the Clone Wars is. So when Hasbro translates that into 3D, into plastic right here, they make them a little bit more realistic than you see on screen. So yes, if Ezra were a real-ish person, this is what he would look like. He just doesn't super look like he does on the screen, but he also doesn't not. Like, you can look at it and absolutely know who he is. He's just what Ezra would look like if he had normal human features. I like the more realistic version, and I like it because it fits better in with the rest of my characters, which are all also realistic. I don't want to look at my figures and see that one clearly looks like it's from a cartoon while everything else looks like it's from the movie. I'm glad they made his human features more realistic than they do in the animated cartoon. Full point, because, I really can't take away from that. I'm glad they did it. So apart from likeness, what does he come with? Or what should he have come with that didn't? So his first accessory that he has is his lightsaber. Now, his lightsaber is pretty unique. He made a lightsaber after finding the temple of Kanan on Lothal, the planet that they're from. And he sort of constructed it to be able to use in regular everyday life. It looks like a blaster. It actually operates as sort of a stun blast. It just also serves a dual purpose as a lightsaber. And it was pretty smart because Kanan has to hide his. He has to take his apart, and then he puts it together when he wants to use it. And that was a really cool first kind of opening episode. It's a really cool feature of that figure. And following those footsteps, Ezra was smarter and was like, I'm just going to make mine look like a gun. It works. It's got a trigger. If he just holds it, it does just look like a gun, but it can also ignite with a very nice blue blade coming out of it. That blade is removable. It's not too hard to remove, unlike Obi-Wan and maces from the past who've had some issues getting their blades on and off. I don't feel like I'm going to break this one, which is nice. The lightsaber hilt itself, or the blaster itself, has a little kind of place for a hook, and there's a hook on the side of his belt right there, and it does fit on nicely. It fits right on his hip. The hilt itself is, I believe, gray with some silver highlights painted around it to make it look metallic. It fits nicely in his hand, and again on the hilt as well. He has his belt. The belt is an accessory because you could definitely take it off if you want to. I mean, if it's an accessory for the original Han Solo, because he comes in 2 different belts, it's an accessory for him. And I definitely want to talk about it because it's good and also terrible. The belt itself is molded really nicely. It's got a lot of great little detail and paint apps on it, little silver kind of studs and metal buckles. It's got pockets and it's got pouches, and I like it a lot. The problem is on the back corner where it's supposed to just kind of peg together and stay on his waist, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It comes off all the time. I can't get it to stay on. I've removed it. I can peg it in when it's not on him, no problem. But once I put it on him, it will not peg on, and it's really, really annoying. From the front, it doesn't look that bad. But as soon as you pick it up and look at it, you can see that it's probably not pegged together. And, it's just, I know that it's not. And that's what bugs me. A casual person looking at it probably would never notice. Now, speaking of removable clothing, I'm going to count it, even though I'm never going to ever do it. His vest is removable. It's nice that it's an extra piece and not molded on. It gives him kind of a layer of depth on there. If you take it off, it just kind of looks funny, like he's wearing a reverse tank top, I guess, where it's just sleeves and no shirt. So don't do it, I guess, but you can if you want to. So I'm going to count it as an accessory, even though it's also not. I just wanted to point it out. All right, now lastly, one of his accessories is this helmet. This is his Imperial Cadet helmet. He wore it in an episode when he sort of pretended to be an Imperial Cadet. It was a pretty cool episode. I liked it a lot. But that's kind of Ezra's shtick. He collects helmets. And I kind of wish he came with more helmets. Ezra has a really cool helmet collection, one that I think any Star Wars fan would want to have. And I like that because it kind of put us all into his character, really. He's a Jedi that pretty much, anyone would want to be. He collects Star Wars memorabilia, just like any fan would. So he definitely is sort of the real person amalgamation, I guess, or stand-in to the show. And it definitely shows, because if I were in the show, I would do everything exactly like Ezra, including having a crush on Sabine Wren. But the helmet itself fits well on his head. It doesn't really feel like it's gonna rub against everything. I've put it on and off a lot and nothing's rubbed off so far. The helmet molding wise is a little plain. The dome obviously is just one smooth piece with the patterns painted on. And then there is a little bit of molding in the plastic on the front, but again, it does give me kind of a plain feeling, but the paint apps are there. So it looks fine, but it's definitely not my favorite accessory. Again, I mean, they could have just included a lightsaber and called it a day, but they didn't. They gave us a helmet, and that's nice. I'll take it. It definitely adds to the value. It adds to the character, and it's something that he had in the show. So I like that. The only thing that I really kind of wish that he would have come with but didn't is, before he got his lightsaber, he had a weird kind of slingshot, like an energy slingshot kind of thing. I do wish that he had come with that. I think it would have been a cool addition, so you could kind of do either or. And of course, there's always alternate hands. I think every character should come with alternate hands, alternate faces if you can even think of some, but I don't think it's super necessary, and I'm not going to dock it so much for that. But what I am going to dock it for is the belt, because honestly, the belt bugs me more than anything else. It doesn't stay together. It's not the end of the world for just looking at the figure casually. Every time I pick it up, I can see that the belt has come unbuckled. Even not touching it, it will come unbuckled. So it's annoying, and I'm going to dock it just a little bit for that. So I'm going to give it a 0.75. So next on our little tour, that is the journey of Ezra Bridger, let's take a look at his articulation. Ezra's head moves all the way around. It has a side-to-side waggle. It moves forward this much, back this much. His arm moves out this far. It moves all the way around. His elbow has a greater than 90-degree bend, as well as a swivel. There's a swivel at the wrist, as well as a hinge. This wrist hinges this way. He has a torso joint swivel. It moves forward this far, back pretty far. His leg can move forward, but you have to unbuckle the belt back here to get most of the leg movement. It moves back this far if it's unbuckled. He has an upper thigh swivel, a double jointed knee, a hinge at the ankle, as well as a rocker. With this being Ezra's widest stance, with both his feet flat on the ground. So Ezra's pretty 2019 standard. I mean, he doesn't have the butterfly joints, but most figures don't, so I'm not going to count that against it. It's really more, at this point, a cherry on the top when they do have it, instead of a detriment if they don't. He does have the newer head waggle, which is pretty nice. You get a wide range of movement, you get a lot of personality out of it. I really like the way that Hasbro's been doing the head movement. His elbows do have a greater than 90-degree bend, which is something that you really have to have, especially the character that has a lightsaber. Although making him hold the lightsaber in two hands is still kind of a chore, but that's really because of the style of lightsaber it is, rather than the articulation's fault, because the handle is just really, really small. There's not enough handle there for both his hands to fit on like there is on a normal lightsaber. The one negative here is his legs. Now, it kind of goes along with the belt. The belt is annoying. It doesn't stay pegged together. But another problem with it is it's extremely restrictive. Because of the way the belt is molded, it doesn't allow for a lot of leg movement. You can only go so far forwards and backwards because it's just very tight. There's not a lot of give there, and I'm afraid I'm going to break it. So you can kind of loosen it up by unbuckling it. You can even pull it off if you want to get some dynamic poses on there, but if you want to keep the belt on and complete the look, you really can only have them in so many leg poses because the belt is very, very restrictive. Legs is a big part of movement. If you can't get a good leg pose out of there, it's just not as dynamic as you really want it to be. It gets a little more static. So we're just going to dock it just a little bit, 0.75. Next, let's take a look at his paint and sculpt. Now, there's a lot here. I've talked a little bit about it with the belt and the jacket, but I just want to reiterate how good this is. I mean, first of all, he's wearing kind of an orange jumpsuit. He really definitely has like a Naruto vibe to him, to me anyway. Again, I'm colorblind, so if I'm getting colors wrong, that's on me, but I'm also broken. He has a lot of fantastic molding. The jacket has some tatters and fur lining kind of molded in there. It's got a really solid, very sharp kind of logo on the back of the vest there. The paint apps on the pockets on the front are very, very sharp. He's got a lot of creases and folds molded right into his arms and sleeves. The jumpsuit itself has a lot of great molding folds and just kind of wrinkles everywhere to make it look like a lived-in suit. I love all the little random armor pieces he has on his body. They're well sculpted. He's got his little armor on his knee. So I really love all of the detail in here. The only nitpick I have with the paint and sculpt here, and it is, again, it's enough for me to dock it just a little bit, but there are weirdly places on him where it's shiny instead of a matte finish. So he's got some things like his sleeves and his upper torso and some of his legs, which are a matte finish, but then like his crotch and his lower torso is like a glossy finish. It's most noticeable on the back. It looks like the paint on his butt is still wet. So it's kind of annoying there, and it's very catching. If it were all matte, it would be fine. If it were all glossy, honestly, I'd be fine with it. But the mixture just looks like he dipped his hands and sat in something wet. It's distracting to me. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of a downgrade there to give it a 0.75 instead of the full point. So let's talk about want and availability. It's obvious that I wanted him. I want the entire Ghost crew. We have almost all of them except for Zeb now. The problem here, and it's not that he's a bad character or isn't interesting, but to me, he is the least interesting character on the show. Sure, he's the new kid, he's the wannabe Jedi in training kind of guy, but you're also up against a Twi'lecian freedom fighter pilot. You're up against an ex-Jedi who survived the Purge. You're up against a Mandalorian artist demolitions expert. You're up against whatever Zeb is, and then Chopper. Like, all of those characters are super interesting, and I like them a lot. And then you've got Ezra, the kid. He's the Bumblebee. He's the Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Like, sure, arguably, he's probably a little more important than they were back in their respective cartoons, but that's what he is. To me, he's like the character that's supposed to appeal to kids. He grew on me over time. But when the show started off, I definitely didn't like him. He was more of an obligation for me to buy than like, oh yeah, I really want him. In terms of availability, he's number 86 in the line, so he's part of the regular release. That line is currently hitting store shelves. You can find him at Walmarts and your Targets if you have them close to you. You can also get them online, Hasbro Pulse, Amazon, Dorkside. Pick your poison. He's not too hard to get. He does only come packaged 1 to a case, but I feel like, compared to some of the other figures in the wave, he's not as sought after, so I don't think he's going to be as hard to find. So due to all that, I'm going to give him a 0.75 because while I like him, he was probably actually the one I wanted least out of the wave. In the end, I'm, again, very happy that I have him. He's a very good figure, so don't get me wrong there. I'm just trying to be honest with my feelings here. So because of all that, if you add everything together, I'm going to give him a 4 out of 5. That's really not a bad score. It's a little bit better than the Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's not a perfect score, mind you. I like having them on my shelf. I feel like you got a decent amount of accessories for it. I really can't complain about them too much. So if you're definitely looking to complete that Rebels crew, or you like kind of Jedi characters, which he would definitely be considered one. He comes with a lightsaber and he's a Jedi in training. I definitely recommend picking him up. But if you have no affiliation with Rebels, you don't care, or you just don't like it for whatever reason, he's probably going to be an easy pass for you. But I feel like any Rebels crew, really, you need him. You just need him in your collection. So that's it for my Ezra Bridger review. What did you think? Let me know down in the downstairs area. I love to read and respond to all those comments. Also, while you're down there in the downstairs area, there's a couple ways you can support my channel if you want to, up to and including subscribing to subscriptions, sending me stuff to my P.O. box, whatever you want to do, I'm here. But I'll be making content regardless, so don't feel like you have to by any means. If you could like, share, and subscribe, it really does help the channel out. And that's it. Thanks so much for getting this far, and I'll see you later. Bye.